He'll be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, Harry added. It doesn't make a difference. It would be better if he donated them. He'd be contributing to the Cassidy family. Everyone was quick to agree. Then what are we waiting for? Rebecca said impatiently. Grandma, I'll head out and bring Stephen over. Someone voiced their doubts. Wait, donating a kidney and a cornea is a big deal. Do you think he'll go along with it? Even if he doesn't want to, he'll have no choice. He has no right to protest in the Cassidy family. Besides, he's stuck in a wheelchair. He can't fight back, Helen said. He's useless now, Harry added. What's the point in asking for his opinion? Hold on, Rebecca said. Stephen can't fight back, but Kim won't agree to this. The family fell silent. They could do whatever they wanted to Stephen, but that wasn't the case for Kim. The Cassidy family in Annapolis had cut ties with her, but her business empire was still there. Her companies were leading enterprises in the country. They would have to take into consideration her feelings and opinions on the matter. Are you that worried because of Kim? Harry asked. She's not that difficult to deal with. What do you mean? We don't need to ask for Kim's opinion. We just need to catch Stephen when he's alone and bring him to the hospital. We'll let her know once the operation's over. What can she do about it? It's already happened. Good idea, Rebecca praised. Let's get a move on. There's no time to waste. Bring our family's subordinates with you, Helen said. You have to be prepared for anything. Rebecca picked the strongest people around and went to find Stephen. After taking back the Wyvern Group and Tanith Corporation, Kim had been busier than ever. Her companies had 10,000 employees across the country. She had to take responsibility for them. After breakfast, she hurried out the door and drove to work. Victoria took Valeria with her to the supermarket. Stephen was the only one left in the villa, or at least that was how it appeared on the surface. Noor and the other members of the palace were nearby, ready to make a move if necessary. Rebecca arrived with her family's strongest subordinates and ordered them to force open the door. It had been a long time since Stephen had seen her. He was surprised to see her barging into the house early in the morning, and the people behind her looked anything but friendly. What are you doing here? It's an emergency. I don't have time to explain. Rebecca motioned for her subordinates. Stop standing around and bring him out. Her subordinates carried him out the door and stuffed him in the van parked outside. Noor was bewildered by the sudden kidnapping attempt in broad daylight. Just when he was about to take action, Stephen subtly gestured for him to stay put. Hey, where are you taking me? Rebecca was in the passenger seat. She glared at Stephen in the rearview mirror. I don't have time to talk. She turned to the driver. Drive to the hospital and step on it. The van sped off. Noor and the palace followed quietly. Rebecca took out her phone and dialed Helen's number. Grandma, Stephen's in the car with me. Inform the doctors so they can be ready. Stephen still didn't know what was going on. Why were they taking him to the hospital? It sounded like Rebecca was in big trouble from her urgent tone. They arrived at the hospital 5 minutes later. Bring him inside, Rebecca ordered. Her subordinates placed Stephen's wheelchair on the ground and carried him out of the van. They set him down in the wheelchair and pushed him into the hospital, heading straight to the ICU. Helen, the rest of the Cassidy family, and the doctors were already there. They were waiting for Stephen to arrive so they could begin the operation. This is the donor, Rebecca said to the doctor. All right, but before the operation, I'll need to ask him a few questions. What's there to ask? Just get on with the operation. That won't do. This is a hospital, not a market. There are rules we have to follow. Rebecca was impatient, but she conceded when she saw a serious look on the donor's face. Okay, ask him whatever you need, but hurry it up. The doctor turned to Stephen. Sir, have you agreed to donate one of your kidneys and corneas to Mr. Rome, the patient who's in critical condition in the ICU? What did you say? Stephen asked, confused. The doctor glanced at the Cassidy family and instantly understood the situation. It was no secret that Kim Cassidy, head of the Wyvern Group and Tanith Corporation, was a member of their family. Their status had risen from her successful business. This man must be her husband, and to prevent antagonizing her, the family had opted to bring him here without his consent. The doctor had guessed the inside story, but he didn't dare to confront them. However, they weren't the only ones in the ICU. There were many doctors, nurses, and patients around. They had all heard his question and supposed donor's answer. The Cassidy family rushed to explain. Of course he agrees, Helen said. He's my granddaughter's husband. He's a member of our family. Why wouldn't he agree? Rebecca nodded. He's already agreed to donate his kidney and cornea for my husband. Let's stop wasting time with the chit-chat and wrap up the paperwork so you can begin the operation. Rome's brother joined in. If you saved my brother's life, we'll reward you handsomely. As they spoke, they surrounded the doctor, obstructing Stephen from view. Their motive was simple. They didn't want to give Stephen the opportunity to answer the doctor's question. They just needed to handle the paperwork for him, and it would be a done deal once he was inside the operating room. But Stephen didn't stay quiet. Hey, I'm right here. Why are you answering for me? I have 2 questions. First, why am I donating a kidney and my cornea? Second, who's the patient in critical condition? He'd heard the doctor's question loud and clear the first time, but his rhetorical reply made the other doctors, nurses, and patients in the ICU stop and stare. That put the doctor and the Cassidy family in a tight spot. The doctors and nurses nearby started whispering to each other. Are they messing around? That man didn't even know he was going to be a donor. The Cassidy family was embarrassed by the witnesses and gossip. Rebecca scowled at them before turning back to the doctor. Do the details matter? He's here now, and he's going to be the donor. One of the doctors who would be assisting in the operation retorted, Miss Rebecca, we will need his consent to proceed with the operation. It's illegal otherwise. Our hospital will be affected if the government finds out about this. Exactly. Consent is imperative, the other doctors echoed. Nothing can be done without it. The doctor in charge of Rome's operation couldn't carry out the operation himself. His team was necessary. Miss Rebecca, why don't you ask for his opinion first? Rebecca kicked Stephen's wheelchair with a frown. Stephen, you heard what they said, right? Tell them that you agree. And what should I agree to exactly? Stephen had figured out what was happening, but he pretended to be oblivious. To donate your kidney and your cornea, obviously. Rome was in a car accident, and he's in the ICU. He needs a donor to survive. Harry spoke up. We've been treating you well. Shouldn't you repay our kindness? This is your chance. Rome is an important member of our family. Your donation will be a huge contribution. Helen agreed. You'll be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. What's the difference between having 2 kidneys and 1 kidney? What about the cornea? Stephen asked. Does that really matter? Rebecca answered, annoyed. You're in a wheelchair. What's the point of being able to see? Stephen looked past Rebecca at the rest of the Cassidy family. There are so many people standing here. Why should I donate? We're not disabled, Harry replied matter-of-factly. Can only disabled people donate? Rebecca raised her voice. What's wrong with you? You have no use for your kidney or your cornea. Might as well donate them to someone who needs them. If you don't agree, then get a divorce, Helen said. Harry, get the volunteer organ donation agreement. The required documents were at the hospital, so there was nothing else for them to prepare. Harry left and returned with a stack of documents. Helen told the family's subordinates to press Stephen's finger to the page to seal the agreement with a fingertip. Stephen didn't struggle. He wanted what they wanted. Helen held out the completed document to the doctor. It's done. Can we begin now? The Cassidy family wasn't the most influential family out there, but they were above the doctors and nurses in the ICU. None of them objected. The doctor had no choice but to give in. He signaled to his team to make preparations. They didn't say anything and silently followed his instructions. They pushed Stephen into the operating room. Transplanting organs was not a simple operation. A comprehensive physical examination was required. He's healthy. His kidneys and eyes are functioning as normal, the doctor informed the Cassidy family after the examination. The Cassidy family was relieved to hear that. Stephen was the ideal donor to save Rome's life. Valeria from their trip to the supermarket. They couldn't find Stephen anywhere. She called him, but he didn't pick up. She contacted Kim instead. Stephen disappeared. Don't worry, Mom. Maybe he went out for some fresh air. He should be back soon. Kim tried to sound positive, but she was concerned too. She ended the call and grabbed her purse, prepared to head home. Her phone rang as she reached the door to her office. Stephen's caller ID was displayed on the screen, but when she picked up, she heard an unfamiliar voice on the other line. When Rebecca abducted Stephen,